Hey number ones, Metatron here. So, For Honor brings us Sakura, the Hitokiri, the new hero for the samurai faction. Is there a glimpse of historical accuracy in this new character? Does something like this really exist in feudal Japan? Well, taken separately, all these things existed. I mean, warrior monks, absolutely, they were called YAMABUSHI and they lived in the mountains. They would have a shaved head, Buddhists and all, but they were wielding an axe. But here's the thing, an axe is a tool, and of course, unless you were samurai in feudal Japan, you wouldn't really be able to go around and utilize battlefield weapons, wear a katana and a wakizashi. So if you were a monk living in the mountains and you were attacked and you had to defend your life, well, you could use an axe, because of course, an axe can be used to either split wood or split a person's head. Samurai women? Absolutely. They were called onabugeisha, a bit rare, but they did exist. Although we also have to keep in mind that the Hitokiri in For Honor, she might not be samurai, possibly she's not, but she still belongs to the samurai faction, so. But what about samurai wielding axes? Well, there is some evidence for it in the form of woodblock prints, more on that later. Okay, let's start with the axe. So one of the main problems I've got with this axe is the thickness of the blade. I mean, look at it. That is super thick, the weight this weapon would have. Also, another thing, what sort of material is it made of? Well, it's not really, the game doesn't tell us, the lore doesn't tell us, but by the looks of it, I think it's iron, to be honest. Now, the samurai in this faction, most of their weapons are made of steel. So why is she using a sort of inferior metal? Well, at the end of the day, perhaps, again, this could be justified within the law, so I'm not going to complain about that too much. But one thing I'm going to complain about is the fact that it's really rusty. And I do understand that this is the starter's equipment, of course. So clearly, as you progress in the game and you start getting loot, then you will have better and better equipment. But still, since this is what I'm reviewing now, I've got to say, when you have a professional who is using a weapon, they will take care of it. It doesn't matter if it's the ancient times, it doesn't matter if it's modern times. If a weapon is from the conditions, the pristine conditions of your weapons will depend your life, you will take care of it, and rust eats up the metal. So as time progresses, it will become thinner and thinner, and then you won't be able to use it. So that's a big problem I have with it. You know, this idea of having blood-stained, rusty implements of war doesn't make sense. Also, what about the helve? Well, I'm not an expert, and again, it looks like a usable handle. I don't really complain about that, but I don't like the way she grips it. I think the right hand is too close to the axe's head, and that means that she's losing a lot of reach, and already she's got to face, for example, the kensei, who's wielding a frigging nodachi. She has to face polearm wielders. So I think that she should be utilizing the full range of the axe, she could get with the axe with a proper grip. Also, it's a double bit axe. Now, double bit axes, yes, they did exist. I mean, even the Romans used them as tools. But as we move into axes used as weapons, most of the times they only have one blade. The reason why double bit axes existed is because when you're using them as tools, so let's say that you're felling down trees and you keep on using the same side for example, felling, it will get blunt with time. And let's say that perhaps for the sort of work you're doing, you always want to have one side that is always nice and sharp, then it makes sense to use one side of the axe for one sort of work or labor, and the other side of the axe for something that does not require as much strength. Perhaps it won't get blunt as quickly. But for war, one side is normally enough for your combat situation, and at the end you can always resharpen it. Alright, so all of this is impressive, but do I like this character? Well, the answer is no. I don't. I do like the samurai faction because I'm a big nerd. I really like, samurai, and my favorite is the kensei within the samurai faction, but I don't like the Hitokiri. I tried using her. I don't like the way she fights. I tried the combos, like when you do a light attack, she does this little jump in front as she proceeds forward towards the enemy, and then when you do strong attack, then she has all this twisting, very much Witcher style. And I can't help it. When I see pirouetting, I'm not really a fan of it because I don't see a martial justification for it. There are so many other things that she could do that would be so much more effective to combo in a way, because when she keeps on doing pirouettes, twisting, it's because she wants to combo. And yes, sure, you could get a little swing out of it, your attack might be stronger, but it's still a bladed implement. It's not a mace, so it's not a weapon that requires an extreme amount of strength in order to deal damage. At the end of the day, if you want to incapacitate an opponent and you're using a bladed weapon, you know, cutting skin, it's not difficult, as Matt Easton told us in one of his recent videos. Link in the description below if you want to know more about that. And if you're fighting fully armored opponents, then most likely you would have to use a mace or some other sorts of weapons. And even though, you know, an axe, you might say, but what about if you modify an axe and you add a point so you can also pierce, and what about you make it longer? Sure, you've just created a halberd, which is a different weapon. So at the end of the day, I don't think she, in reality, if this wasn't a fantasy setting, in reality, I don't think the Hitokiri would stand a chance against any of the knights of the knights faction and against the fully armored samurai. You take the Kensei, can take out her every day, all day. She doesn't have a weapon that could go through his armor. Although given in this setting, samurai wear wooden armor. I've got a video on that if you're interested, link in the description below. Today we've got a lot of bearing gifts. So again, it's not metal armor, so maybe it could work as well. At the end of the day, you do use it to split wood. I don't think she would be able to split also because these planks are thick. It's like he's wearing a friggin' door. So, you know, split in the wood and also split him. And I'm not sure if it would work. And she's not wearing armor, as I said, so I don't think she would be a very effective fighter. So, what about the armor? Well, here's the thing. You know my opinion on characters who don't wear armor and go into frigging full battle. I think it's a big problem. I take an issue with this. I mean, this character, sure, she has a lot of marbles, I believe. She's a little mad, so that could be a justification, but it would definitely hinder her effectiveness in combat. I mean, her chest, her entire core is completely exposed, and that is a big problem. Perhaps she's a little off, maybe she's crazy, but she is wielding, for example, shin guards or greaves. She is wielding protection for her hands and for the forearm, so she does care for some sort of protection. So I don't understand why she's not wearing any form of cuirass or body protection. Not to mention this, she's actually protecting her triceps, but she's not protecting her shoulders. Now, you show that to any Roman worth his salt and they will laugh about it, because the Romans did protect their shoulders very much, with doublings, both in the case of Roman hamata, so mail, and in the case of Roman laminata or segmentata, segmented plate. If we look at the actual wooden blocks, the evidence that we have, well, they were really big. So yes, this sort of axe could be very big, but again, we need to keep in mind that real Japanese samurai most of the times did not use axes. So possibly that some did. If you had access to spears, you would prefer that over an axe. So again, a very rare situation within feudal Japan. What is a hitokiri anyways? Well, hitokiri is a real Japanese word, and it means, well, alright, hito means person. So someone who cuts, people, basically. And I've seen, like, for example, on Wikipedia, they say that it literally means man's slayer or man's cutter. No. When you say literary, well, let's put it this way. Literal translation and a contextual translation are two completely different kettles of fish. A manslayer, I'm not saying it's a wrong translation, but it's not a literal translation. It's a contextual translation. So these people, they were sort of, we could say executioners, perhaps killers, you could also say assassins, but still, they were people who cut other people. But manslayer is not literal, because the kanji hito is gender neutral. It means person. It could be a man or a woman. And also slayer, yes, in a way, because in feudal Japan, in ancient Japanese, old Japanese, let's say that you were a samurai and you wanted to threaten someone to death, where a typical way to do that is ugokanai to kiru, ugokanai to kiruzo. So if you don't move, I'll cut you, because they're called cut, considering the fact that it would be wielding katana, definitely, not on the battlefield very much, but definitely in town. Cutting becomes an equivalent of killing. So it is a good translation, but it's not a literal translation. Now, another little linguistic hint, if you will. The name is Sakura, and it's pronounced Sakura. So not Sakura, for example. It's a quite common girl's name, even in modern day Japan. And as you know, of course, it means cherry blossoms. But when you actually talk about the flower, or you talk about the tree, then the pronunciation becomes Sakura. So there is a difference. Sakura for the tree, or the blossom, or the flower. If you want to say tree, of course, you would say Sakura no ki. But if it's the name, it's Sakura. What about you? Do you like the Hitokiri? Is it going to be your new main? Well, let me know in the comments below. Alright, noble ones, well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up. If you're not yet a member of this community, become a noble one. Subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Sayonara.